Sunday, May 22nd, 2022, Mappe Stadium in Reggio Emilia. At somewhere around 6:17 p.m., Olivier Giroud scored what would turn out to be the goal that had officially pulled AC Milan out of their banter era, a goal that would eventually clinch their first Scudetto in over a decade. 11 years, multiple different owners, countless squad overhauls, and even more managers later, and finally one of football's most historic clubs was winning things again. Not with a massive outlay of cash, but through smart recruitment, a mix of experience and youthful exuberance, and of course, the coaching from the formerly unwanted man in Serie A, Stefano Pioli. But less than a year on, despite achieving glory and seemingly finally having their ownership situation sorted out, the defending champions are beginning to again resemble the image of AC Milan that we had become accustomed to from 2012 until 2022. A Milan who simply do not work on the pitch, are there for the taking, and are repeating mistakes.
If you're failing so often with the players that you currently have, what is the difference with giving other players an opportunity?
The strangest representation of their reversion? The team they beat 3-0 to clinch the Scudetto in 2022 and put to rest the banter era, then beat them 5-2 at the San Siro in 2023. Of course, it's easy to understand why AC Milan aren't leading the table. Napoli have been breathtaking under Spalletti this season, humbling teams domestically and in the Champions League as well, making for very, very worthy Serie A leaders. But as for AC Milan's very real struggles, sometimes a collapse in form like this can seem complex from the outside. But when you break it down with someone who follows it closely, it's really quite simple. And that's what Martino Puccio is here to help with. Let's get into why AC Milan is currently failing to defend their Scudetto so soon after dragging themselves out of the mud. Guys, welcome back to Rabona TV for all of our returning subscribers, and a normal, standard welcome, I guess, to anyone who is new. I'm excited to get into this one. Martino has been on the channel a couple of times before to talk about Italy and AC Milan, and he takes a pretty measured approach to his analysis, so I knew he was the man for the job here. Check out his YouTube channel or find him on TikTok. Both have been linked below for your viewing pleasure. And other than that, let's get back to it. It's nothing new to see people argue about their team's transfer window. For some, there's never enough, as some modern football fans are seemingly more addicted to seeing who Fabrizio Romano will link to their club next than actually watching matches. I get it, new signings are fun and bring excitement, that same feeling you get before every match where you think, okay, maybe this is the one where we turn things around. I mean, you get that same feeling about new signings. Okay, maybe this guy can be the one who turns our fortunes around, who kicks off the revolution that lifts everyone. But with AC Milan supporters, there was a noticeable division amongst the supporters this past summer, which was caused by the lack of signings that were being made. While the champions were seemingly spinning their tires in the summer window, it would have been difficult to watch Juventus sign an entire new team. Hell, even AS Roma was making two statements of intent through the signings of Dybala and the very, very unlucky Wijnaldum. Inter brought back Lukaku, signed Onana, Mkhitaryan, etc. Sure, not everyone mentioned has worked out, but it paints the picture for you. Other teams were active, while the champions had brought in Divock Origi on a free and were fighting to sign Charles de Ketelaere and Sven Botman. So, why were they taking so long to get deals done, and why were supporters so frustrated? Well, here's Martino to answer both questions.
It really depends on how much you know about the situation, in that there's a selling owner and there was an agreement on a sale between Redbird and Elliott. That Elliott would also retain part of the club, but the official takeover wouldn't happen until September through Redbird. And coming off a title-winning season where you assume you make Champions League again, you have more money, the budget will be greater, but it was really just the Scudetto prize and essentially the group stage money of the Champions League. And that essentially funded 50 million, 35 coming from the De Ketelaere purchase. You know, it's really underwhelming for a club like Milan.
Ah yes, an important thing to mention, yet another change of ownership at AC Milan. Well, Elliott management were almost like caretakers in a sense, if you want to look at it that way, taking over AC Milan to increase their value with every intention of selling them on at a later date. A deal was eventually struck with Redbird Capital Partners as Milan's ownership changed hands once again for 1.2 billion euros. Jerry Cardinale, the founder of Redbird, had this to say upon the purchase of AC Milan. Quote, Our vision for Milan is clear. We will support our talented players, coaches, and staff to deliver success on the pitch and allow our fans to share in the extraordinary experiences of the historic club. We will look to leverage our global sports and media network, our analytics expertise, our track record in sports stadium developments, and hospitality to deliver one goal: maintaining Milan's place at the summit of European and world football. That track record in sports stadium developments part is a big one, considering the plans around renovating the San Siro or building a new stadium for the city of Milan have been kicked around forever and are now gaining pace. But with all of this, what does this have to do with the market?
Why would Elliott, if you're a hedge fund selling this club, why would you invest more money? Why would you really do that, right? Because they're here to collect money. They're not here to spend more. In theory, you could say, yeah, but wouldn't you want your asset that you're still holding on to a percentage to improve? So why not invest? But that's not really the case. That's not the way they're run. There is that built-in excuse for Redbird that they didn't have any stake in the summer and they didn't officially take over to the end. So that's why you saw Serginho Dest and Astor Franks come in at the very end of the window with options, of course. It's never actual money.
So essentially you have a club that is changing hands over the summer, so the former owners have no real interest in pumping money into an asset that they are ultimately going to sell their majority stake in. And the deal to get it done was only completed at the very end of the transfer window. You're trying to compete with a financial powerhouse like Newcastle United for the signing of a much-needed defender, Sven Botman, and on top of that, you have the looming shadow of a stadium project as well. Makes things difficult.
It's just been a real mess from top to bottom because ownership's either over here in New York or they're not really commenting much outside of a possible new stadium, which has been in the works for like 10 years now through four different ownerships. So, I mean, it's kind of frustrating for a lot of fans because now the results aren't there.
So with all of the arguing and infighting amongst Milan supporters, the time comes to accept what you have. And what do we see? Deficiencies on the pitch for the defending champions. So, they got Origi, De Catalara, Dest, Franks, and Malik Chow, but where did they really need to improve still?
A central defender to replace Romagnoli. That's why they were in on Sven Botman for so long. And obviously you can't compete with Newcastle at that point. And the attack was lacking. It's a 35-year-old Giroud. And then Rafael Leao. You know, Ibra already had the surgery. Salamakers, Brahim Diaz is still on a loan. You still needed someone in attack. And they thought, hey, we went down the last 12 matches or so where we're only conceding 1 to 2 goals. That entire stretch to win the title, maybe we could survive and buy a low-cost player like Malik Chow, who we just finally saw play in the derby. But that's kind of where they went with that. And it was obvious that they knew what their issues were, because I think a big club, and to where fans want this club to be at this point, it's CDK and Botman. But they had the choice of one of the two. Essentially, everybody flops in the transfer window, and you have injuries. Then that's a recipe for disaster on top of all the stubbornness that's going on with the manager as well.
Said stubbornness, we'll get to that a bit later, because I think that the biggest surprise with AC Milan, again, from the outside, has been how poor they have been defensively. During the 2021-22 Scudetto winning season, AC Milan's defensive record was largely what set them apart from the rest and what set them up for success, with Magnan in goal, Chiara and Tomori striking up an incredible partnership, Kalulu taking hold of the right side while Teo roved up and down the left. Alongside Napoli, they had the best defensive record in Serie A with 31 goals conceded. Okay, so they didn't stand out too much across the entirety of the season, but what made their run to the Scudetto so impressive from the defensive viewpoint was their final 11 Serie A matches. From those 11 matches, AC Milan managed to keep 9 clean sheets, conceding just 2 goals in that stretch. Now, when you compare that to how things have been going this season, well, they're soon going to match the amount of goals they conceded across 38 matches last season, 31, remember, as after 21 matches this season, they've already conceded 30 goals. And I mean, when you just look at how things have been going lately,
you can't have that. They've conceded the most goals in 2023 in Serie A. That's unheard of for a club like this.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking. To put a number on it, Milan have conceded 15 goals in 6 matches, an average of 2.5 goals conceded per match. Just for context's sake, 9 of those goals were conceded in 2 matches, a 4-0 loss to Lazio and a 5-2 loss to Sassuolo. But still, just because they were isolated to 2 matches, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that you conceded 9 goals in 2 matches. So what's up?
I think some of the players are not great. I think there's a lack of confidence in the goalkeeper. I think Davide Calabria, like, this guy cannot play at the high level of modern football in which you need pace. He's getting burnt by the easiest of players. A guy like Gabbia getting in against Sassuolo, if you saw that Fratesi goal, like, not only is Tatarusanu not doing a good job of watching the near post, like, Gabbia's giving acres of space to a player. He almost committed a penalty in the derby. These guys are not good enough. We're just strictly constantly playing 2 center backs in Kalulu and Tomori that have some weaknesses aerially. That's applied to, the set pieces. And then again, Kier off an injury. He's probably gone soon as well. No one's even trying to put in Malik Chow. There's not a proper backup left back either. Teo Hernandez is going to a World Cup final, playing every game, and then still playing as an advanced type of left back as well. I mean, that all coincides together. And then on top of the midfield, just like giving up balls way too easily. They know if you just keep pressuring them and getting shots at Tatarusanu, like 11 goals on 13 shots. That's insane. That's incredible. I know you look into some statistics as well. He's statistically the worst in Serie A since he started.
So you have injuries leading to an unsettled backline at times, coupled with Tatarusanu perhaps not instilling a ton of confidence in the players in front of him, leading to disorganization from set pieces and open play alike, which leads to chaos. What a difference a keeper makes, no? I mean, we see this all the time. When defenders know that they have that someone they can rely on behind them, someone who can bail them out should they need bailing out, and someone to help organize the box, they perform much better. The classic example I look to is the difference in Liverpool's defense pre and post Alisson. AC Milan had a great thing going with Maignan. It's not just the shot stopping, which he's incredible at, but the organization and the confidence that he provides the defenders in front of him. Oh, and speaking of organization, what Stefano Pioli managed to achieve with AC Milan last season was fantastic. He wasn't reliant upon a single scorer to drag them to the top. It took a village, goals-wise. The defense, as mentioned, was fantastic. He would give youthful players opportunities while also having trusted, experienced deputies such as Kier, Giroud, Romagnoli, and Zlatan to help lead the team, while he also showed some tactical flexibility. Everything was going well for Pioli last season, and hell, their good form actually began a couple seasons prior when Serie A returned from the COVID break and Milan went on a fantastic run to close out the season. However, in the present, he's seemingly doing something that is sure to piss off fans. We've all had to live through this. Things aren't going right, and the manager seemingly copy-pasting lineups and ignoring the younger, hungry players who can give the side a lift. It sometimes gives the air of a lack of bravery, trying to take the safe option with experienced players in times of strife, but simultaneously moving away from what brought you success in the past.
What made him so good when taking over Gianpaolo was giving opportunities to young players. I mean, Benacer, Rafael Leao, obviously, Teo was getting minutes. I mean, all that was like showing there's promise within these players that you're trusting from management. That Moncada was at Monaco scouting brilliant players that helped them win the league title, and then you finally see it come to fruition, and it benefited him so greatly that it not only saved his job, it saved his career in the sense of how he will be looked at, when he retires or whenever he leaves Milan or anywhere else. Right now, he's not doing that. CDK is not earning any starts despite seeing some flashes. I think there's other players that deserve an opportunity. You're running with a 2 defensive midfielder formation in which Benacer and Tonali are clearly better players when they're moving up the pitch as opposed to that grunt work that Kessie was doing. You're not being tactically flexible when things are not working. You're exhausting the same 11 that's conceding too many goals, and you're not giving the opportunity to the youngsters. What haven't we seen from some of these guys already? The fact is this: Astor Franks came on against Sampdoria, Fiorentina. He was a great sub and won them games. He hasn't gotten a start since. Just one time in the Torino and Coppa Italia. And then again, Chow comes in one match, has 2 goal line clearances and saves a game for Milan. That was massive for them. And you don't see him get any other opportunity until he comes on 20 minutes late in the derby. And we saw what he could do in terms of physicality and come along to read the game better. It's like, if you're failing so often with the players that you currently have, what is the difference with giving other players an opportunity? You're going to get the same result then, worst case. So at least you've exhausted all options.
You know, it certainly does smack of a manager that is scrambling a bit, like we've gone over, reverting to experienced players, moving away from what made you so good, and being a bit stubborn in some ways.
He wants counterattacking football, but yet it's 36-year-old Giroud with Divock Origi up top, and you're benching one of the best talents in the world in Rafael Leao for no apparent reason. And you bring him on in the 55th minute, and you see the world of a difference. And it's really embarrassing to see that and then double down and defend on that decision publicly when the kid's in the middle of a contract extension talk that could hamper that. And that's just not something you want to do.
But against Inter, there was a glimmer of hope. That glimmer of hope that things could still turn out okay.
I think the 3-5-2 or the 5-4-1, whatever you want to call that formation it was, kind of showed that they can be defensively organized if everyone is focused. And they're not going to be playing Inter every weekend.
With the lead that Napoli has, sure, they could lose a few points due to the Plus-Valenza situation surrounding Victor Osimhen. But failing that, it's fair to say that AC Milan have all but conceded their title at this point. It would take a monumental effort from them, a collapse from others, and who knows, with guys like Mignan returning in the not-so-distant future, perhaps they can surge up the table, but getting first again seems unlikely. But hey, failing that, what would success look like for AC Milan at this point? As mentioned by Martino, they have the ongoing renewal of Rafael Leão, a painful will he won't he situation that feels like it's integral to their attack going forward. That is, of course, assuming that Redbird doesn't adopt a very different recruitment strategy to the one that we've seen so far. Hey, the winter window is tough to sign players. Unless you're a Premier League side. Surely for Milan's confidence and, of course, fiscal reasons, getting past Tottenham would be massive. But if that doesn't happen...
The worst is behind you now. Can you focus and put your head down with getting the players back that you're getting and maybe giving some of these younger players an opportunity, because it's kind of proven to be successful at times this season. But does Pioli know his job is on the line here and he has to change something? Because if he does, it might save them, because top four is not out of the question. You have almost half a season to play, so there's plenty of time to turn this around. It's really just Napoli at this point. So they can salvage this, but don't tell people on Twitter I said this, because they're going to lose their minds.
Look, defending a title is difficult, and AC Milan is a perfect representation of how difficult it can be. There's a common belief that when you win a title, that's when you need to invest even further in your squad. Why? Because your rivals are going to invest in their squads to catch up and try to surpass you, and complacency can build within your squad. AC Milan brought in players, but still had gaping holes to cover. Holes that were exposed by injuries. On top of that, you don't get the measure of a team and their manager while the going is good. You get that during a time of crisis, and it's fair to say that Milan and Pioli haven't been able to meet the challenge this season. But as we covered, with the return of certain individuals and the manager returning to what made Milan great last term, coupled with a summer of investment from Redbird, this season can still go from being a disappointing collapse to a stopgap to further success in the next season. I want to thank Martino for his help on this video. Be sure to check out his links below as he's creating great content. Other than that, however, I thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Adrian. Subscribe if you're new to Rabona TV, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.